Hello and welcome. In this show tonight, we are going to talk about one of India's dark and grave secrets. It's about our coastline, which is 5,700 kilometers long, but 25%, that's about 1,500 kilometers of it, is destroyed. The beaches are gone. And what we are talking about here is not just beaches to sunbathe on and beaches for fun. The sand acts as a filter and stops salt water from the ocean going inland. But when the beaches go, all the wells along the beach become saline, and the crops don't grow in those areas. So when we are talking about 1,500 kilometers of our beaches gone by man-made environmental problems, we are talking about the lives of some 200 million people in India being affected. And how many of us know about it? We know about glaciers being eroded and our rivers dying. And those are crucial issues. But here is probably equal amongst them. 200 million people suffering because of man-made problems along our coastline, and we are doing nothing about it, and not many people know about it. Also today we are releasing this wonderful book, and all of you should get hold of it. If I can just show it here. The Challenge of the Coast of India. It's about this problem. If you can get a hold of this copy, get a hold of it, because you need to know what's affecting 200 million people and how the situation is getting worse day by day. Probeel, if I can ask you, why are our beaches disappearing? What's happening? What's the basic cause?
Essentially, we have to understand three things. That the coast plays a vital role in the country's economy because of the habitats, the rich biodiversity, and the life it sustains in terms of humans and other creatures. The second thing is, of course, we have to realize that 30% of the people are living on the coast. And third, which is most important, is that the coast, it has a very dynamic system. Like if something happens in the land, there is an environmental impact, but it's restricted to that area. Whereas on the coast, it could spread to kilometers and tens of kilometers both ways, which is going to affect the people.
So what is directly causing 1/4 of our, or 1/3 of our, or 25% of our coast to disappear, or the beaches to disappear? Why?
The reason is that we are building these harbors and ports for which we need to construct these breakwaters. And when you build these breakwaters, you're actually stopping this movement of sand.
So I think you once told me that beaches or all our coastline is like a river of sand, with the sand constantly moving from south to north. So if you block it, then the sand doesn't go to the other side, unless you dredge and move it. So that's the cause, is it?
That's exactly the cause. Nature does it free. Like in the East Coast, 9 months a year you have the monsoons which move the sand towards the north, and 3 months a year it moves towards the south. Now if you put any human intervention like a breakwater, what happens is you're blocking this flow of sand, and on the north of these breakwaters the sand is continuing to move and creates a kind of a vacuum, and the sea comes in. Right. So to stop this, what the typical government attitude is an emergency measure to build some ad hoc structures. So they're building the sea walls to protect the coast. Now what these sea walls are doing is it actually transfers the problem further north. So the next year you have to build another wall, and these stones will sink, and then another wall. And just like in Pondicherry, it started with a problem at the harbor point, but today 10 kilometers of the coast is walled up.
So you had a beautiful beach, they built a wall and the beach disappeared, it became
completely
rocks.
Disappeared, and because of that, Pondicherry, we were proud of our drinking water. We used to carry drinking water with us wherever we went. But now the whole thing has become saline. The villages are now funnily on one side of the wall and the sea is on the other. Like the fisherman is divided from his workplace with a huge wall in between, so they have lost their livelihoods. The entire coastal system, ecosystem is completely damaged.
So we're not just talking about tourism, we're talking about the livelihoods of fishermen, coastal villages, ordinary people in the villages are losing their livelihood because of these break walls that are stopping killing the beaches.
Yeah, the harbor was built for about 200 fishing families for trawlers. And the 2008 report says that we have lost about 7,000 livelihoods.
7,000 livelihoods in that one...
In that one stretch.
So we're talking about 1,500 kilometers like that.
Yes.
But Sunita, can I just ask you, we're not against sports, we're not against progress, but when somebody builds a port, they promise that they will dredge the sand from one side and put it on the other side. And they do that in many parts of the world. Why can't they do it in India? Why do they promise and then just don't dredge the sand?
I think, Dr. Roy, it's clearly we don't care. The fact is it doesn't at all affect policymakers and to push the port authorities to say that that is non-negotiable, that you will build a port, but that port cannot take away a beach. I mean,
Right.
the first time I went to Pondicherry and we were together, if you remember, I was absolutely stunned myself that a small harbor could actually take away a beach. I mean, all of us talk about the fact that we are a generation of lost rivers. We are losing rivers to pollution. But now I'm actually saying we're a generation of lost beaches.
Right,
We are
right.
actually destroying beaches of our country, and we don't even understand that that is
The
happening.
implications of
The
it.
implications of it. And the fact that this is, as you said, not about frolicking on the beach and a little bit of tourism. It's actually about fresh water. It's about livelihood of fishermen. It's about employment. And I think we need to be able to see, firstly, we are building ports as if there is no tomorrow. There are ports coming one after the other without any understanding of the cumulative impact of
We
the
have
ports.
some 200 ports in India.
Well, nobody actually
Knows the amount.
Okay?
Could be even
I
more.
mean,
Yeah. As of last count, 200 could be 250 by
could
now.
be 250 because we have minor ports, we have harbors, we turn into ports, and we have major ports.
But it's
And
just haphazard.
it's haphazard, and the environmental regulations, the CRZ, which is the Coastal Regulation Management System of the country, is actually turned out to be toothless in terms of enforcement. It has to be strengthened. We have to make sure that this issue about losing beaches and the fact that this cost of development is just too high a cost and we cannot pay it.
Losing beaches is losing lives
Losing beaches is losing lives and livelihoods.
and livelihoods. I must reveal a slight personal bias here from NDTV's point of view. On Wednesday this week, NDTV is filing a PIL in the Supreme Court on this very issue. We are demanding that the Supreme Court enforces that the dredging that is promised to take place actually takes place. It's a simple thing. So from the government, you're one of the secretaries who are actually pushing yourself, but do you find it a tough battle because states are fighting with each other? One state can look after their beach and that ruins the beaches in another state. What's the struggle you're facing from within the government?
No, actually, I mean, of course, personally, my department is not involved in this regulation business. What we are basically trying to do is understand the whole system and how we can provide the information to make it sustainable.
Exactly.
If you allow, I will take a couple of minutes to explain. See, whenever we say we want to sustain any activity, there are three things that are very critical. One is the processes which are undergoing. That is what we call as the earth system. In this case, we can say as a coastal system,
Right.
where we have the interaction between the terrestrial processes, the land and the sea, plus the biosphere, the biota, as well as the atmosphere. So there are four different things where the mass and energy is transferring from one place to the other place. That is the one thing.
But
This-
before you
yeah.
go on to the second, these are natural phenomena. And then
These are
man comes and intervenes
Yeah.
and destroys the
Yeah,
balance.
that is what I am coming the next. The next is the human system.
Right.
And the human system has certain needs for its food, fuel, energy, fiber, shelter. And to meet these needs, over a period of time, the man has created a social system, which essentially includes the agriculture or industry or infrastructure or a governance. So now when the human system interacts with the coastal system, and there are bound to be, certain degradation.
Now that I don't agree. Why must they bound to be?
Yeah,
Why can't the human beings live in harmony with their nature? If, for example, a simple thing. You build a seawall, a breakwater, whatever you call it, and you dredge. But if you don't dredge, as you promised, the government should come down and close that place.
Dr. Roy, it may not be that simple in each case.
It seems very simple to me, sir.
Yeah, it may be. It may be. Because
it just seems they don't want to spend the money.
No. That may be the one
And let me
reason.
tell you, give me an estimate. We were talking about a 2,500 crore port. We'll spend 12 crores a year on dredging?
12 to 13.
12 crores they can't spend, and they'll destroy 20 miles of beach.
See, the reason,
so it's very simple.
No, the reason for the erosion is one reason, of course, the engineering structures which we build.
Yeah.
But there is a natural process.
No,
also.
by the way, sorry, one small interruption. I think you also pointing out, if you could elaborate, not only the engineering structures we build, but then the money you make when the beaches get eroded, what happens there?
Yeah, you lose land, right?
Then you pay construction contractors.
So it's for every 100 meters of seawalls that you're actually putting, it's actually a construction contract. I mean, you're actually spending more money.
And then you lose a beach and they come and have to dump boulders or those.
And every year to prevent that seawall from sinking, you put more boulders. So it's an annual exercise. There is an externality or an extra expenditure.
So it's a good profit-making, simple exercise.
No, that is a separate issue. What I am trying to say is, if we really want to understand and make it sustainable, there are natural as well as man-made activities which affect the coast. As a nature, if you see the coast, if you see the west coast and east coast, which we were discussing, if you see the west coast, there are the beaches which are more curvy, convex kind of a thing. On the east coast, you get a straight beaches. By nature, when the coast emerges, it is a straight coast. And then the forces of the wave, tides, wind, etc. work on it. And depending upon the nature of the system there, they make certain area as a cliffs. And the next to cliffs, you will have a beaches. But the nature constantly strives to remove those cliffs and the make beach.
And make replenish the beach. Can I just come back to you? I just want to talk to this great lawyer, Mr. Mohan, on the work you've done. You see, we talk about all the disaster, 200 million lives, but what you have done in Pondicherry gives us all hope. You've brought back a beach, or you're bringing back a beach by fighting for it. Now, can I just ask you, you're fighting in one state, but what you do there doesn't affect other states. Shouldn't this be a national issue?
That has already happened. As a result of the intervention by Pondicherry, the Ministry of Environment and Forests was directed to convene a meeting of the southern states at first instance to discuss erosion along the coast, and expanded later to encompass all the states on the eastern coast. To some extent, this cross-border erosion issue has been tackled. Otherwise, state coastal zone management authorities were looking only at their borders.
Yes.
But beaches and waves and seas don't recognize.
Just tell me the legal fight, the legal issues you had to face to get this beach back in Pondicherry. I think Pondicherry deserves applause for reversing the loss of the beach there. I mean, it's phenomenal. You've saved so many lives. But what were the legal issues you faced?
It's the second time Pondicherry has had to go to court. 4 years back, they went to court saying the Pondicherry government is building these seawalls without any sanction from the Ministry of Environment and Forests. Thereafter, the construction of these walls was blocked for some time. Now, though in that round of litigation, the government of Tamil Nadu came to the support of Pondicherry and said Pondicherry government ought not to be building these breakwaters. 5 years later, Pondi stopped and Tamil Nadu started building.
Their breakwater.
Now, Pondicherry government says Pondicherry is right, Tamil Nadu shouldn't be building these seawalls. But it's a blame game all around. And every state wants to shift the burden of their action or inaction onto the neighbor.
In many ways, it's a zero-sum game. If one state benefits, they get their beaches, the next state may lose. How do you make this, how do you get states to cooperate? It's one of the most difficult issues.
In fact, the whole purpose of this report was that this information is invisible. People don't know about it. Whether it's policymakers, whether
don't
it is
know
decision,
about
they
it.
don't know
Yes,
about
yes,
it.
yes.
There are some people who are ignorant in the policy making things. There are some people who are apathetic, and there are some people who are greedy, and for the sake of profit, they will not do dredging and destroy these things. So what we have done in this report is we have mapped the entire coast of mainland India, a 500-meter zone, and put on GIS mapping all the ecologically sensitive areas, all the settlements.
I think
all
it's
the
an absolute
structures,
remarkable effort.
and all the ports and power
Detailed
plants.
and
Yes.
very precise.
So now anybody can go to any stretch of the coast
And
and,
it's-
find out what is there.
It's on the web?
It's on the web. So the decision makers cannot say, I did not know there were this coastal settlements.
The mangroves here or
or
coastal-
mangroves
yeah.
here or settlements
It's
there. It's all public.
charted out.
Yes. Otherwise, they were depending on the project proponent to tell them what is there. And if I say that there are no settlements, they would give me an approval based on that. And subsequently, when it goes into litigation, they will say, oh, so much of investment has already been done, so we cannot stop this project. Now, the funny thing is, maybe there are we know that there are so many power plants and so many port projects. They have all done fantastic project reports. They have done fantastic
That is
environment
the
impact
thing.
assessments.
You read their project reports.
It's
they'll be
fantastic. All international
environment,
companies.
everything intact.
Yes. And none of them have actually
Implemented.
fulfilled. But in spite of that, these projects keep getting cleared with the assumption that they will do it. And it never happens because there is no enforcement agency, there is no accountability. We don't know if you want to penalize. Even if you want to penalize, there is no clause. There is no system of holding anybody accountable. So this destruction will keep going.